Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Anime Podcast channel. My name is Benji, and today, Zorro fans are gonna go crazy after this chapter. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't blame them. And the toxic Zorro fans have already started with their boo-boo takes, and I've seen a plethora of them, such as Zorro could blitz Roger, completely skip Whitebeard. He can blitz Roger now, and Zorro just surpassed Luffy Low Def, and Zorro can solo the Dragon Ball Z universe.
Who?
Okay, that last one, I'm joking. But, you get my saying. Zorro fans are going crazy with this chapter. But I gotta hand it to him. Zorro, this chapter, takes one step closer to finally fulfilling his lifelong dream. To truly become the world's greatest swordsman. So famous that the heavens will hear of his name. But let's not waste any time. And to be honest, me being a Sanji fan, I hate to say it, but this chapter itself has to be one of my favorite chapters of all the Wano. Regardless of 1031, I think it was 1031 with the Sanji stuff. I still want Sanji stuff, but that's here to say, so we'll see. But without further ado, let's get started. So we begin the chapter off with Smoker and Tashigi actually, and basically they're kind of playing around with a couple of penguins on the snowy mountain. That's kind of cute. I think Tashigi was supposed to be represented as like the bad guy, so now she's holding the white flag. Smoker, he's posted up in the back looking fire, so there's that. And then I don't know, penguins are cute, so there's that. But continuing on with the chapter, we continue back with the Zoro and King fight. And we begin with Zoro screaming to Emma to stop draining his energy without permission. And from the last chapter, if you guys do remember, Zoro was having issues with Enma. Basically, it seemed to be draining out all of his Haki out of his arm once Enma actually heard the shamisen. And I think that was probably triggered by Hiyori when she was kind of luring in Orochi. So I would like to see what kind of happens on that front with Orochi and Hiyori. And I gotta be honest though, King this chapter was saying some of the most savage lines, bro. I don't think we've ever seen an appointed have this much savagery. He was talking cash cold shit to Zoro. So King says trouble in paradise. And he keeps this same kind of energy the whole chapter. So I would really like to see, especially after the contents of this chapter, how that interaction between these two go. Because, Zoro can talk shit, but I don't know, King, he talking crazy this chapter. So King stands directly in front of Zoro, and Zoro tries to stab him right into the stomach. And King's response is, a direct hit. And this causes the area to spontaneously combust. And we later figure out that King was actually responsible for this attack, and I'll kind of get into detail a little bit later on. We then cut to Sanji and Queen, and if you guys remember, Sanji's last attack was a super awesome panel of him doing a Hell's Memories attack. He literally launched Queen through several rooms within Onigashima. Now, the thing that makes this extremely, extremely interesting though is Queen, I think he's starting to staggerly get up from that attack, but he doesn't necessarily seem like he's in too much pain from that attack. It doesn't seem like it really affected him at all, but I kind of want to get a little bit more into that a little bit later also. But when Queen does get up, he gets up, laughs, and says this: "You just called the pirate hunter, right? He doesn't stand a chance against King." And then Queen goes on to explain that King is a part of the Lanarian race, a race that was supposed to be eradicated. Lanarians were proclaimed to be able to withstand any inhospitable environment that the world threw at them. They even were considered gods. Sanji asks, how could beings like that get wiped out? And Queen says you'll have to find out yourself. And I like these little tidbits. Obviously, Oda's doing this on purpose because he's not trying to divulge too much information about Lanarians. But this dialogue alone, though, raises multiple questions about King's origins, the Lanarian race. But more importantly, the significance of this to me is Oda is avidly throwing hints that Sanji may be close to the Lanarian race. Or at least Judge maybe had modeled his augmented humans after what Lanarians were once capable of. So think about it. On two different occasions, Oda has mentioned the Lanarian race between the conversations between Sanji and Queen. I found that very interesting. I'm pretty sure that we're going to get some kind of Lanarian reveal in the next couple chapters or so with Sanji. But yes, going back to 1031 with Sanji, the chapter where he kind of is conflicted about his role within the Straw Hats. I do want to see, especially after that Hell's Memories attacks that he actually used on Queen, I want to see what is it really going to take in order to take down Queen. If it looks at this panel right here, it doesn't necessarily seem like Queen took a lot of damage. I feel like his body is augmented, obviously, because he's some kind of cyborg. But I don't know. I find it very interesting to see that he was able to withstand such an attack, go through multiple rooms in Onigashima, and actually be able to survive and kind of laugh it off. So I want to see what is needed in order for Sanji to really overcome this battle himself. It's going to have to transition a lot higher than all of the things that we've seen from Sanji up to this point. So there's that. But we continue with the Zoro and King action. So Zoro survives the attack that King actually triggers. And this is actually crazy because the fact of the matter is, if King is able to, spontaneously combust and not hurt himself at all, is this the type of capabilities that we can see from the Lanarian race from here on out? Maybe something to do with Sanji later on, just blowing yourself up and then, not hurting yourself. So that could be crazy too. So moving on, Zoro actually attacks King with a one sword style lethal lying song. It seemingly does damage at first, but nada. So basically King, he retaliates with a Temporal Odin, that weird technique that we got last chapter. But the thing that makes this kind of crazy is Zoro really contemplates, that was one of my strongest attacks and it did absolutely nothing to King. And even more bad luck, Zoro actually gets his Haki drained by Enma again. So this time King's attack, the Temporal Order attack, actually connects with Zoro, almost seeming like it could have been a fatal wound. But the thing about this that was crazy, the fact of the matter is this attack almost blew off half of the side of Onigashima. And then we get some more dialogue from this nigga King. Yo, this guy is a savage. He says this: a swordsman beaten by his own swords. Why, that's a first. Damn, King, what you got on? What you got going on, man? So at this point, Zoro has all of his swords kind of scattered. They're all in reaching distance, but this triggers actually a flashback sequence relating to each of Zoro's swords while he's getting each one back into his possession. We even get some brief, nice backstory on Zoro's childhood. Now first, Zoro attempts to get back Sore Getetsu, and Zoro remembers his conversation with Hitetsu and how that this was his sword. Now, if you guys remember back in Logtown, Zoro was actually able to get his Sore Getetsu from one of the sword shops in Logtown. And basically, if you guys remember, I'm pretty sure you guys do, Zoro, holding his hand out and letting the sword, which was, deemed cursed by the shop owner, he lets the sword decide whether or not he's capable of wielding it. And that actually is so crazy because later on in the chapter, we actually get a little bit more details on how that kind of works. Second, Zoro receives back his Wado Ichimonji, the very sword given to Zoro after the passing of his best friend, Kuna, the catalyst that sets Zoro on his dream. And we actually get additional information from Hitetsu that the same swordsmith who crafted the Wado Ichimonji is the same one who crafted Enma. And his name was Shimotsuki Kozaburo. And this is kind of nice because we get some realization from Zoro himself. Zoro putting two and two together and asks a very specific question. How did a sword from Wano end up in the East Blue, where Zoro grew up? And lastly, Enma, as well as a little bit of flashback with that sword. And this happens presently. As soon as Zoro picks up Enma, it immediately starts draining the Haki out of Zoro's arm. And King rushes Zoro and throws him down, making the floor collapse. So this is where we cut to an additional flashback of Momonosuke and Zoro. Now, if you guys remember, I think earlier on, before Zoro even, got Enma, or after he got Enma, he was having a conversation with Momonosuke. And the thing that Zoro had always heard that it was a nice battle cry to say was Tsunachi. Now, when Momo actually asked about this, he said that that's not a good thing to say. And I kind of want to know more information about that. We don't get it in this chapter, but I do want to know why not to say that. I think we'll kind of get more information a little bit later on, obviously. Which was a battle cry that Zoro had been taught from an old man, who Zoro called Village Geezer. And we would later find out is the actual Shimotsuki Kozaburo. We cut to another flashback after this, and it's of Zoro as a child, and he's alongside Kozaburo, and he's explaining to Zoro that Tsunachi is a battle cry that gives you courage. But we get more dialogue from this flashback, and I kind of want to keep it short because it is a little long. I want to give the major discoveries that we figure out, as well as a little bit more information on Shimotsuki Kozaburo. So for one, Zoro's old best friend Kunai, the one who set Zoro on this path in order to become the greatest swordsman in the world, she was actually a relative of the village geezer, aka Shimotsuki Kozaburo. So another discovery that we get is that Shimotsuki Kozaburo was actually from Wano, and for some reason he illegally left Wano over 50 years ago. But the most major discovery we get actually in a conversation between Kozaburo and Zoro, and it's the true nature of cursed swords. And Kozaburo gives us a lot. Check it out. So Kozaburo says this, and I quote, "Swords exist to cut people down. When swordsmiths create them, they ensure they can take as many lives as possible." So Kozaburo also states this: "Each blade is like a person with a unique disposition. A swordsman is one who tames the sword's wild nature and bends it to their will." Now, this is really crazy, and I want to get a little bit more into it, and I'll kind of explain why, but stay with me. But most importantly, he talks about how he crafted his magnus opus. Now, if you guys don't know, that's basically like the greatest achievement as an artist or a writer. That's the definition on Google, so there we go. But with this major discovery, this connects Zoro to almost every single sword that he's come into path with since the very time we actually got introduced to him in One Piece. You see, throughout Zoro's life, the swords that he's come into contact with have had some kind of significant point in his life. But the major component that I really want to speak on is the fact that swords having these kind of unique dispositions, these unique personalities. And in order for them to truly be wielded the way that they were supposed to be wielded, is to have some strong user who's able to tame the wild beasts that these swords actually are. So think about it. Each sword up until now, Zoro has been deemed worthy enough to actually wield the sword. So if each sword has some kind of personality, I want you to think about this. So Wado Ichimonji, maybe that sword actually felt that Zoro was capable of achieving the dream that him and his best friend had once had. Then the other sword, Sode Getetsu, what if that sword had felt that Zoro was worthy of wielding itself back in Logtown, that Zoro's willpower was capable of being able to handle or tame the beast of Sode Getetsu. But Enma is a little bit different. You see, Enma is built for a king. And actually, we learned that the actual name for Enma, that its actual meaning, means Lord of the Underworld, which is a fire name to have. And quick little side note, and like I said, I don't want to kind of correlate two and two together, but if it is possible, with Zoro having this Lord of the Underworld sword, and Sanji seemingly maybe having, God's chosen people, this natural God race, the Lanarians. It could be like the wings of the monster trio that support Luffy in order for him to become the future king of the pirates. You have one that's a devil and one that's more so like an angel or a god. I do find that interesting. I don't know, and I may be reaching, but I do kind of want to put that up there as well. So there's that. But the thing that makes Enma so unique was this constant draining of Zoro's Haki, and more so, it was a message to Zoro that you don't fit the standards of what I'm capable of. I need a king who's willing to tame this beast that I am. And I like that so much. And it kind of, like I said, it kind of correlates with everything that we kind of got in this chapter as well. I need something more from you. It's testing Zoro. And Zoro kind of understands that this is what Enma is telling him. But cutting back after the flashback, Zoro is actually on the floor. And Zoro says exactly this. And he's referencing Enma at this point. The sword isn't acting out of malice. That just means I've not been measuring up to the standards that it sets for me. You're telling me Odin was able to wield you easily, even while this much Haki was pouring out of me. And then we see some fodder beast pirates that just come out the woodwork. And the funny thing about these niggas though, like they see that Zoro and King are having a serious battle. In what world do these niggas think they really about to take Zoro's head and get a promotion in the beast pirates? Like what are you doing? But in relation to the chapter, this is actually necessary. Because you see, as soon as the beast pirates make any advancement between this battle between King and Zoro, Zoro instantaneously knocks them out. And he uses it with none other than Supreme King's Haki. I like Supreme King's Haki better than Conqueror's Haki sometimes, but There's that. And Zoro realizes at this point that Enma is only subservient to those who are worthy of calling themselves kings. So at this point, Zoro finally taps into his, innate conqueror's Haki abilities. We end with this climactic last couple panels between King and Zoro. And King says this: "I see. So you've also got kingly ambitions." And you just see Zoro posted up with all three swords engulfed in black lightning and clouds, signifying that at this point in time Zoro is embedding Conqueror's Haki through his swords, the same way that we've seen from Roger, Whitebeard, as well as Kaido and Luffy. And then we get a flashback of Luffy, and he says, "Oh, so you want to be the world's greatest swordsman? Well, the future king of the pirates wouldn't settle for anything less." And then it's a crazy dope panel once you see Zoro smiling, ready to go crazy on niggas. He says this: "I guess you're right after all. I made promises to my captain and my oldest friend." And that's the end of the chapter. No break next week. And I'm going to be honest, this chapter itself has to be one of my favorite chapters in Wano. Simply for the fact that, the realization of this is how I need to be, utilizing such a divine sword. From here on out, I don't know what's going to happen, especially we don't know too much about the Lunarian race and how that's going to happen. I don't think Zoro's going to absolutely murk King, but King has shown an immense amount of strength throughout this whole battle, so I do want to see what happens on that front. Also, I do want to kind of cut back to the Sanji and Queen fight. I'm a little biased, but I can't even front. This Zoro chapter was so fire, I don't even care. But I don't know, man. It's just like chapters like this are so nice to kind of see, because I don't know, it just makes you love being a One Piece fan. Now, with that being said, I've already seen the awful takes that some Zoro fans have had. But at the end of the day, more people are more excited about the Monster Trio really coming to this nice middle ground where each one of them is stepping up to the plate and they're ready to take on the world. And that's what I love to see about this. Anything else? Yeah, nothing else. I love the pace and I love how everything's going. So I can't wait to see this animated though. Gonna go crazy. But with that being said, what did you think about the chapter? Let me know in the comments down below. Continue to follow and support the Geek Giant channel with Nick, JC, and myself. And with that being said, I love you guys so much. Thank you for this love and support. And I'm out of here. Peace.